Thank you, sir. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the March 7th, 2023 Select Board meeting. May I have a roll call, please? You're muted, Ms. Wertz.
There, can you hear me?
Yes.
Today present is Mr. Slavin, Ms. Whiteside, Mr. Chadwick, Mr. Bessie, myself as selectman, Mr. Bowen, our town lawyer is here, and Mr. Sullivan, the town administrator, is here.
Thank you. I'm going to ask Mr. Sullivan to do the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. We have a very lengthy agenda this evening. We have several presentations from people who are asking for funds at our upcoming town meetings. We have a couple of appointments to make. We also have a hearing. I've asked each of the presenters for the requests for funding at town meeting to limit their presentations to 5 minutes. I, in fact, will cut you off if you go beyond the 5 minutes. Because what we would like to do is hear your presentation and then be able to ask questions. The town moderator will be limiting you to a 5-minute presentation as well on town meeting floor. So I think that it's appropriate that we limit you as well. I'm going to ask that you keep your announcements brief this evening, my board members, because as I say, we have a very full agenda and I do want to have people have the opportunity to be heard. We can come back at the end of the meeting with liaison and initiative reports and board's comments. Thank you. Mr. Slavin, where announcements, sir?
I'll pass for right now.
Thank you. Mr. Bessie, any announcements, sir?
None tonight.
Thank you. Mr. Chadwick.
I have two quick ones. One is, if people haven't seen, I posted on Facebook a couple days ago, Wareham Fire Department, Wareham EMS Onset Fire, and Wareham Natural Resources, along with multiple other local agencies, attended Nero's Law training put on by Marion Fire, Fairhaven Police, along with Professional Canine Services. This is a new state law that was presented by Steve Exarios, state rep, and what it allows EMS professionals to do is transport canine police dogs that have been injured in the line of duty to emergency facilities, vets that are in their local area. If you're interested in learning more on it, you can just Google Nero's Law, and it will provide plenty of information on it. Second thing is, I just want to thank the Wareham EMS, Wareham Police, and Wareham Fire and Onset Fire for their great work today in the unfortunate event that happened down in the Shangri-La area of a house fire. And that's it.
Thank you. Ms. Wertz?
And I'm good.
Thank you. And I will postpone mine to the end of the meeting if I have any others. We have appointments and reappointments and interviews. Because Mr. Hurd and Ms. Quirk have been before this board before for their other appointments, I would ask that I have a motion to appoint David Hurd and one to appoint Sherry Quirk to this new bylaw review committee. This is a 3-member committee and 2 members will be sworn in as soon as they complete their paperwork if we appoint them this evening. They already have their first meeting set up for March 23rd. May I have a motion, please?
Ms. Whiteside, can we do a singular motion or do you want them separate?
You can do them together.
Okay, I make a motion that we appoint David Hurd and Sherry Quirk to the bylaw review committee with a term to expire on June 30th, 2024.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to appoint those two individuals to the bylaw review committee, which will sunset on June 30th, 2024, or before, if they find it necessary. Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I will go for a roll call vote. Mr. Slavin,
Yes.
Mr. Bessie,
Yes.
Mr. Chadwick,
Yes.
Ms. Wertz,
yes,
myself, yes, 500. Both of those individuals will need to make sure that their ethics, open meeting law, and sexual harassment in certifications are in order before they can be sworn in. We do have a 7:15 meeting hearing, but we don't have that available. Mr. Belbin, would you please raise your hand so that Mr. White can let you into the meeting? Thank you, sir. Mr. Belbin is here to discuss the Regional Refuse District. He asked that he be available to address this board to bring us up to date on what's going on with what I call the dump. He disappeared.
Must have got dumped.
Yeah, Mr. Belbin, if you got dumped, could you sign yourself back in? We will go to Mr. David Hurd. Please raise your hand so that you may be let into the meeting, sir. We will go to Town Business 7B, which is a presentation of the CPC article for the Community Preservation Fund reserves. Please raise your hand, Mr. Hurd. Oh, there's Mr. Belbin. You can let Mr. Hurd in too as well. Thank you. Mr. Belbin, I can't see you yet, but I know you're there. So when you are there, hi, Bob, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thanks. Could you introduce yourself, sir, and tell us a little bit about why you wanted to come before this meeting? Thank you.
My name is Robert Belbin. I live at 26 Gate Street in Carver, Massachusetts, and I am the current chairman of the Carver, Marion, Wareham Regional Refuse Disposal District. And what I thought would be great is to let you guys know what the district's been doing since we've all taken over and since the catastrophe of many decades of mismanagement of our funds, the district. So I'd just like to give you a report of what we've been doing and where we're going for the future.
Go ahead.
All right, here we go. So we have 3 members from Wareham, which your chairman Judith Whiteside is on, Dave Menard, and Amanda Cobb, who is our secretary. Mary Dormer from Carver and Kevin Bradshaw from Carver is the treasurer. We have an executive director, which is Jeffrey Osuch, and he is very knowledgeable and experienced and has led us to where we are today. The district has gone through some changes over the past few years. The Carver, Marion, Wareham district has responsibilities for our retirees and benefits, and also for potential pollution liabilities of our closed landfill. The closure of the Carver landfill at the end of December in 2020, the district received no income from CMAS. We monitored the closing of the Carver landfill, which we hold an insurance policy for contamination for the next 20 plus years. Last year, there was a fire at the landfill where the Carver Fire Department controlled the assistance of Covanta equipment. And thanks to all the Carver firefighters and Covanta for taking care of that and making sure no contamination happened. When we and Covanta and CMAS ended our agreement, the district had no money being generated. What we had is what we got. At that point, we liquidated our vehicles and negotiated with Covanta a settlement agreement for future benefits for OPEB. At that point, we had approximately $1.2 million in the bank. We have negotiated with Wareham to continue to provide alternative to trash hauling services for Carver and Wareham at the transfer station in Rochester on Route 28. Wareham has put a lot of work and time and effort into that property to create a safe flow of vehicles and a clean facility. I want to thank you guys very much for doing that. Carver really I want to say thank you. For our residents, it's another option. You've done a great job there. The property is the only real asset the district holds right now. It's estimated approximately $400,000 to $600,000, except for some office equipment. The district bank accounts, which were only getting basic interest amounts, I felt we needed some clear guidance on what we're going to do for the future. So I contacted Plymouth County Treasurer Tom O'Brien. I asked him his opinion about the district and what we can do in our financial situation with our funds. Only making basic interest rate, it wasn't good enough. He came back with a few options. Number one, to move OPEB liabilities, which is one employee and one spouse, to either Plymouth County or the state. Number two is put money into a bond fund. Number three is to consolidate our accounts. And number four, to invest in a CD, certificate of deposit. With his expert advice, the district started to put his suggestion into action. We investigated the OPEB option, and the board invested $150,000 to the PARS program, which is associated with Plymouth County Retirement System through US Bank to cover the district's retiree costs for health and life insurance. The district is anticipated a return of the investment of between 4% and 6%. The potential of up to 6% interest rate of return and less management of the OPEB, it's a no-brainer for our district. Any money left over will be returned to the district. The board has been heavily involved in investing district funds to minimize any potential costs for towns of Carver and Wareham. The board of directors has invested $500,000 in a bond ladder with Eastern Bank. The bond ladder has 10 bonds, each valued at $50,000. The bonds will mature 6 months increments. The first bond maturing in June of 2023, and another bond will mature every 6 months for the next 5 years. The rate of return on those 10 bonds will average approximately 4%. The board will have to decide as each bond matures how to reinvest the funds or take the money to run the district. Board of directors also invested $450,000 in 2 12-month CDs at a 4.59% interest rate with Eastern Bank. Revenue from these CDs will help offset the portion of the district's yearly expenses. Board members also completed a 1-hour training session on ethics and conflict of interest with the district attorney, with our attorneys. We continue to meet monthly and every other month in the hope to do quarterly meetings in the future. We still meet via Zoom, where I am the contact person for Carver to post all our meeting agendas, and you guys do the same. So if you guys ever want to come and see what we're doing with the money, please come to our meeting. It's open to the public and we're on Zoom. That is the end of my report. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Belvin. And I really have to appreciate the fact that you love the transfer station as much as I do. That's one of my favorite places to go in the summertime. There are these beautiful flowers in the grassy area, and you could actually eat off the pavement. And that's a really nice thing to be able to say about, I'll call it the dump. Any of you have a comment or a question? Raise your hand, please, Ms. Wertz.
Yeah, I'd like to thank you as well. I'm a firm believer of using the dump versus having trash at my house. Therefore, I don't have to worry about the squirrels and the skunks and the whatever's deciding they're going to eat through my trash can to get to whatever's in there. When I go up to your facility, I'm short. The openings for some of those bins come up to like my chin, so I can do basketball shots in, and your guys are running over. It doesn't matter who it is. It doesn't matter if they know me, to make sure they help me. And I really, really appreciate it. It's clean. It's wonderful. Your people are great.
Thank you. Mr. Sullivan. Oh, sorry, Bob, go ahead.
Yeah, Tricia, thank you. It's not mine, it's your employees that are doing this. It's the town of Wareham that runs it. And they do a wonderful job. So between Dave and all those employees that work down there for Wareham, I have to commend you just like that. It's a lot different than when Covanta was running it, and they deserve tons of support and thank you for all they do.
Well,
Thank
let
you.
me just extend that just a little bit and thank you for taking care of the financials and the business case behind running this, because if that didn't work, these guys couldn't work for us well either. So thank you.
Mr. Slavin, you had your hand up?
No, but
Okay. Mr. Bessie, Mr. Chadwick, any comment, Mr. Chadwick?
I just wanted to refer back to Mrs. Whiteside's comment there. My favorite place is the beach in the summer, just an FYI, but thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for everything you do.
Thank you, Mr. Belbin. I think we have no more questions or comments. So thank you very much for bringing us up to date.
Thank
I
you.
really appreciate it. Would you
I
send
hope
a
that-
copy of your report to me, please, so I can?
Sure, no problem. And I just want to say thank you again, and I hopefully will do this another next year. All right, just to keep you guys updated. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Mr. St. Jean, if you are here for the 7:15 hearing, would you please raise your hand so we can let you into the meeting? Mr. Hurd, okay, so Mark, would you let Mark into the meeting? Mr. Hurd, I'm going to have to ask you to just wait. Don't go anyplace. Don't move him, Mr. White, but we do have a 7:15 hearing. So Ms. Wertz, may I have a motion, please, to open the hearing? You're muted, ma'am. Sorry.
You might get me so I'm never muted and wish I was. I make a motion that we open the hearing for the application from Stone Path Malt LLC, DBA Stone Path Malt on Kendrick Road in Wareham to move their classification from a seasonal general on-premises wines and malt beverage license to an annual general on-premises wine and malt beverage license under the provisions of Chapter 138 of the Massachusetts General Laws for the year 2023.
Thank you. Is there a
Second.
second to the motion? Motion made and seconded to open the hearing. Is there any further discussion on that motion? Hearing none, I will ask for a roll call vote. Mr. Slavin to open the hearing,
yes.
Mr. Bessie,
Yes.
Mr. Chadwick,
Yes.
Ms. Wertz,
Yes,
myself, yes. The hearing is now open. Mr. St. Jean, would you identify yourself, please, and briefly explain what we're here to do this evening? And we can't see you, sir, so nor can we hear you at the moment. We're still waiting for Mr. St. Jean. Excellent. Oh, we got a flash of you. Mr. Hurd, we will go to you next. Thank you for waiting, sir.
Hello?
Hello, Mr. St. Jean. We can hear you even though we can't see you. So if you would identify yourself for the record, please.
I'm sorry. Zoom is a bad word for me because it brings back bad memories.
Okay,
I would much rather be in person with you all, but yeah, Mark St. Jean, Stone Path Malt. I am in front of the board this evening to correct the paperwork as it relates to my Section 12 on-premises beer and wine license.
thank you, sir. Do any of my board members have any questions of Mr. St. Jean? Please raise your hand. No? Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak in favor of this application? Please raise your hand so I can let you into the meeting. If there's anyone here who would like to speak against this application, please raise your hand and I will let you into the meeting. Would one of my board members please check the audience as well? I see no hands being raised.
No hands.
Thank you. May I have a motion, please, to close the hearing, Ms. Wertz?
I move to close the hearing for the Stone Path Malt and the adjustment to their wines and malt beverage license to an annual general on premises license under the
Thank you.
provisions.
Go ahead.
under the provisions of chapter 138 for the Mass General Laws for the years 2023.
Thank you. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Is there any further discussion on the motion to close the hearing? Seeing none, I will go for a roll call vote to close the hearing. Mr. Slavin,
Yes.
Mr. Bessie,
Yes.
Mr. Chadwick,
Yes.
Ms. Wertz,
Yes,
and myself, yes, the hearing is now closed. I will now accept a motion, Ms. Wertz.
I move to approve the change of license of Stone Path Malt LLC DBA Stone Path Malt for an annual general on-premise wines and malt beverages license under the mass provisions of chapter 138 general laws for the year of 2023.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve. Is there any further discussion on that motion? Hearing none, I will go for a roll call vote. Mr. Slavin,
Yes.
Mr. Bessie,
Yes.
Mr. Chadwick,
Yes.
Ms. Wertz,
Yes,
myself, yes, it is granted. Mr. St. Jean, if you would just contact the office to finish up the paperwork. Thank you so much, gentlemen, and enjoy your evening. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
Madam
you.
Chair, and I know we need to move through. I just want to thank Mark Stonepath and for all they do for the community. They host a lot of fundraisers, and it's been one of the best new businesses that we've brought in. They're not so new anymore, but you know, they continue to bring folks in and really great destinations. So thanks for everything, Mark.
Yeah,
Thank you, Mr.
thanks,
Sullivan.
Howard.
Thank you.
It
Thank you,
feels
Mr.
new every day.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mr. St. Jean.
All right,
Mr.
thank you.
Hurd. Yep, Mr. Hurd, we will hear from you on the CPC article, which is on the town meeting warrant for the Community Preservation Fund reserves. Would you identify yourself for the record, sir, and speak to what the article asks for, please?
Yes, my name is David Hurd. I'm co-chair of CPC. This is an annual article. And I'll read you the article, the motion, and the explanation, but I think I'll start with the explanation because it tells you what we have to do. Community preservation is required by law to reserve at least 10% of the fiscal year's estimated revenue for historic preservation, affordable housing, and open space grants, and to allocate 5% of the estimated revenue for administrative expenses. The fiscal year 2024 estimated revenue is 1.6 million. And we get that as an estimate from John Foster, what he estimates from taxes, plus interest that we may have on funds that are available, and also a grant from the state, which typically is around 50%. So the warrant article, to see if the town will vote to reserve for future appropriation from Community Preservation Act funds fiscal 24, estimated annual revenues for the following amounts. 1, 80,000 for administrative expenses. 2, 160,000 to open space reserves. 3, 160,000 to historic preservation reserves. And 4, 160,000 to affordable housing reserves, or to do or act in any manner thereto. Motion is, I move that the town vote to reserve for future appropriations from Community Preservation Act funds, fiscal year 23, estimated annual revenues for the following amounts. 180,000 for administrative expenses. 2, 160,000 to open space reserves. 3, 160,000 to historic preservation reserves. And 4, 160,000 to affordable housing reserves. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Hurd. Do any of you have any questions? If so, please raise your hand. Hearing none. Thank you very much, Mr. Hurd. I appreciate the information, and you also heard that you were appointed earlier today. So if you would go to the bylaw review committee. So if you would go to the office and get the paperwork to be sworn in on that, I would appreciate it.
I will do that this week. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hurd. Good evening. Would you please let Penn Lindsay and Sarah Kaiser, would you raise your hands, please? Penn Lindsay and Sarah Kaiser, please raise your hands. Thank you. Mr. White, would you let those two individuals into the meeting? These are the presenters for the CPC article for Woodland Cove Phase 2. I believe they sent us information earlier today, but I honestly don't remember. We will not be voting on any of these articles this evening. We will be hearing all of the presentations. I want all of my members to have the opportunity to look at the presentations, to hear the presentations. We will be voting on whether we will be recommending them or not next week. Ms. Kaiser and Mr. Lindsay, would you identify yourselves for the record and give us a short presentation of what it is that you're looking for, please?
Sure. My name is Sarah Kaiser, and I am a development project manager with Dakota Partners.
Good evening. My name is Penn Lindsay. I'm a Vice President of Acquisitions and Development with Dakota Partners. Appreciate the time. Thanks for having us tonight.
Thank you. Do you have a PowerPoint presentation?
Yes, I do. I
Okay.
can share my screen.
Excellent. And I'm just going to let you do the presentation and then we will come back for questions. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. All right. Can you see my screen all right? Okay.
Yes.
So we are here tonight to discuss Woodland Cove Phase 2, located at 3102 Cranberry Highway. So for a project overview, it is 3 phases, totaling 150 units. There will be 5 residential buildings and a community building. Phase 1 consists of 63 units, as well as Phase 2, and Phase 3 consists of 24 units. And there's a mix of 1, 2, and 3 bedroom apartments in each phase. And then we also have 181 complimentary parking spaces for residents as well. For affordability, Woodland Cove Phase 2, we have units that are 30% of AMI, or the area median income. And 8 of those units will have project-based vouchers through Neighborhood Works Housing Solutions, and 1 MRVP, or Massachusetts Rental Voucher Program unit as well. And it will also have 47 units of 60% AMI and 7 workforce housing units at 100% AMI. And Phase 1 will have 8 units at 30% AMI, 48 units at 60%, and 7 workforce. And Phase 3 will have 24 units of workforce housing. For amenities, Woodland Cove.
Sarah, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Is everyone seeing the presentation, the slides for the presentation? I'm only
The
seeing
intro slide is the only one that
myself.
we've seen.
Oh,
And I would remind you that you only have 5 minutes for the presentation.
Okay,
Sure.
hang on, let me just,
Yep, thank you.
sorry about that.
Great.
Okay, so amenities, we have off-street parking. Woodland Cove is within a close distance to a variety of services and stores. And our community building offers a fitness center, a secured package room, a community room with a kitchenette for residents to utilize for events, on-site management office, as well as an outdoor playground. And every building will have laundry and elevators. And for in-unit amenities, we have luxury vinyl plank flooring and Energy Star appliances. So this is a map just showing where Woodland Cove is at the intersection of Red Brick Road and Cranberry Highway. And this gives you an idea of what the phasing will be. So the red buildings, those are Phase 1. So buildings E and F, as well as the clubhouse. And then Phase 2 are the blue buildings, buildings A and B, and Phase 3, building D. So Phase 1 began construction first, followed by Phase 3. And then phase 2 actually followed phase 3, but we still refer to it as phase 2. So we did a market study, and some of the key indicators from that showing community need was over 42% of Wareham renter households are rent burdened, as well as the Wareham Housing Authority currently has a 2 to 3 year waiting list. And all existing affordable housing in the market area is fully occupied and has at least a 6-month waiting list. So Woodland Cove offers some benefits that we'd be able to charge rents that are 78 to 101% less than market rate rents for our 60% AMI units. And we also are committed to extended affordability of at least 50 years. So this gives you an idea of our financing. So we're asking for $400,000 of Community Preservation Act funds. And so causes for our gap. So we currently have a gap of $875,000. And that's due to right after we closed, construction interest rates increased to 0.65%, resulting in approximately $200,000 of unanticipated interest costs, as well as we have our construction fully bought out. And that resulted in construction cost overruns of approximately $675,000. And are there any questions?
Thank you. If you have questions, please raise your hand so that I can, Mr. Chadwick, sir.
Just to go back a second, did you say you plan on trying to keep the prices down or competitive over the next 15 years?
Would one of you answer that, please?
Yes, so there will be affordability restriction on this property for 50 years. 50 years, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Are there any other questions? I have a couple of questions. How many units are in phase 2, please? Total.
63 units.
Okay. And you said you had laundry room amenities. If you have 63 units in 2 buildings, how many washing machines are in each laundry room, or how is that divided out, please?
For that, I believe. Pen, do you know exactly how that's
I don't
determined?
have that right at the top of mind, but we can certainly provide that information to you, Ms. Whiteside.
Thank you. And the other thing, I think at one point you had talked about other amenities. How big is the playground that you are proposing to provide, sir, or Ms. Kaiser?
I'd have to double check what the approximate square footages of it is, but it is a good size, but we can provide that exact information for you.
Thank you. And where in the location would it be? Would it be in the center of the units, of the buildings?
Yep, so it'd be right next to the clubhouse or the community building.
Okay, I'd like to know the square footage, please. I'd like to know how many laundry units there are, and I'd also like to know, I'd like the assurance that the playground would be 100% ADA compliant.
Oh, yes.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Yes, Mr. Chadwick.
Sorry, go back to you. Forgive my ignorance on this one. Our town has a lot of people that can barely afford housing here, and they're looking for housing left and right. And I know a lot of people that are. Are there plans to, help the Wareham people out before you have people coming in from other towns looking at this?
Yes, Mr. Lindsay or Ms. Kaiser?
Yes, Mr. Chadwick. So what we're looking to confirm right now is that we do have a preference for local residents, and we're looking into exactly what the parameters of that preference are, but there is a preference for local residents.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Slavin?
just to help Jared out as well. The problem is only if these people, you may have very few people in Wareham qualify, so you can't guarantee Wareham residents will get this. My comments I will make next week when we actually vote on. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Yes, Mr. Bessie, you're muted, sir.
Can you hear me now? Good.
Yes.
So speaking on, I guess piggybacking off of the or preference to Wareham residents, and then, Mr. Slavin, referencing qualifying. So I'm assuming that these units are going to have income qualifications. Are they going to be credit qualifications, things like that? What does that look like for a prospective renter for the property?
Can one of you answer that, please?
Sure. So yes, there are income qualifications. So this is a low-income housing tax credit project. Is financed through low-income housing tax credits, which are allocated by the state DHCD. We have in this phase of the project. So as we've said, there are 3 phases to the project, but we're specifically tonight presenting on phase 2, which there are 63 units. To qualify for the units, we've broken them out by AMI. So 9 of the 63 units are set aside for prospective residents that are earning at or below 30% of the area median income. 47 of the units are set aside for prospective residents that are earning 60% or below of the area median income. And then 7 units are at 100% of AMI.
May I just ask that what the AMI is, sir, so the public will know?
Sure.
Today, I understand that when you open, it may be different.
That's right. And Sarah, do you happen to have that on you or handy?
Let me just grab it.
Do any of the rest of you have any questions?
When that's all done, I'll have it to you.
Thank you.
Looks
the
like 68,274 is what I see from the state.
Is that a figure that you could get back to us, Ms. Kaiser or Mr. Lindsay, along with the other questions that we've asked?
Yes, absolutely. We can
Okay, thank you.
get that right back to you in the next day.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Bessie, are you all set with questions?
Yes, I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan.
Just real quick, there's approximately a $850,000 cost overrun. Is that just for phase 2, or is that for include phase 3? How likely is phase 3 with these sorts of overruns?
So as Sarah started to mention, we actually are progressing with phase 3 right now. So yes, the answer to your question, Mr. Solomon, is that the cost overrun for which we're applying is specific to phase 2. Phase 1 and phase 3 are already much farther along in construction than phase 2, which has lagged behind due partly to these construction cost overruns.
Thank you. Neither of you were involved on this when it was the permitting process. My concern was your 150 units on a 7-acre parcel. And I know you spoke about some area amenities, but in what is in essence, I consider it a desert island. We had asked for additional amenities. The response from legal counsel representing Dakota Partners was no, because we don't have to. And now you're coming before us for money. And I take a little bit of offense to that, I must admit.
If you choose to comment, Mr. Lindsay or Ms. Kaiser, you do not need to comment. Thank you. Do the rest of you have any questions or comments?
Yes, I have one more.
Sure, Mr. Sullivan.
I'd like to see them do right by the community. And if we are going to put funds towards this, one of our biggest obligations is to the seniors and make it senior affordable housing for the phase that we're looking to put funds into.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan.
Okay, I think we have asked the questions that we'd like to have answered. Again, we won't be voting on this proposal tonight. We would be not voting on it until at least next week. Any information that you could forward to us would be appreciated, and we will distribute it among the members. Thank you very much, Mr. Lindsay. Thank you, Ms. Kaiser. Good evening.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Mr. White, would you let Nancy McHale and Bob Gleason in? Would you two raise your hands, please? Nancy McHale and Bob Gleason. Oh, Kathy Papalardo. Okay, yeah, it's showing is Kathy Papalardo and Bob Gleason. Would you let them into the meeting, please? This is the article on the Sawyer Conservation Area.
Thank you very much. This is Nancy McHale, and I am starting my video, and I apologize for not having changed Kathy's name. I'm using her laptop because I do not have video on my PC upstairs.
Thank you. And Mr. Gleason, would you identify yourself for the record too, please, sir?
Bob, I think you're muted.
Ms. McHale, why don't you start the presentation?
Okay,
Thank you.
I do have a short, some slides that if I could share my screen.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Okay. Did that pop up for you as share screen?
No,
No. Okay.
you're braver than I am. I wouldn't even try.
Yeah. Anyway, bottom line is I did send it to you.
Yes.
It is a very different project than Woodland Cove. This one, even though it's right off of Red Brook Road as well, this project will, there's the share screen spot. It is up off of, it's between, wedged between Red Brook Road and the
Lyman Preserve, right?
Yeah, the Lyman Preserve. And it is a conservation open space project that is, I believe, hopefully at this point you can see the conservation property evaluation slide.
That's okay. We did get the copy of the packet, so even if you can't show it, we did get the presentation from you. Thank
Okay.
you.
It
Good evening,
is,
Mr. Gleason. Yeah.
it is to preserve it's a combination open space recreation application. It furthers the town's open space and recreation plan by preserving wetlands and uplands along rivers and provides a wildlife habitat. It also protects protection of the Plymouth Carver sole source aquifer. This would allow the Wareham Land Trust to purchase a map 28, assessors map 128, lot 1006, which is approximately, it's listed as being approximately 12 acres. Again, this is all area that is globally rare pine barrens, and this particular parcel is sandwiched between the Lyman's 210 acre parcel, of which much of that property is inaccessible because it would have to, their trails would have to go over private property. And it's sandwiched between a small piece that the land trust already owns, as well as the large well fields that the Onset Water District owns. And our point to all of this is so that we can continue to preserve the wonderful water that Wareham has, because the sole source aquifer is obviously our only source of water, drinking water. And that this then would also allow the land trust, the Onset Water District, and the trustees to work cooperatively to get a large network of loop trails put together so that the residents of Wareham certainly can go out and enjoy those woods, as well as, you know, it's one more place. And obviously you understand that this is a dense, in the neighborhood of a very densely populated Onset and East Wareham. We're asking.
Yeah, I was going to say, can you tell us how much you're asking for? Sorry.
Wait, yeah, no, I'm getting there. I'm just, you know,
Okay.
doing the good stuff first.
Okay.
We're asking for $48,000 of an approximately $58,000 project. 30,000 will be for the acquisition. The rest is for the due diligence costs, the survey, the appraisal, all of those sorts of things, which we're hoping to keep to a minimum. And from there, we will do a conservation restriction in perpetuity on this project. We have received letters of support from the Onset Water District, obviously, the trustees, the Buzzards Bay Coalition, the Onset Bay Association, the Wareham Conservation Commission, the Department of Natural Resources here in Wareham, and the Onset Fire District Prudential Committee.
Thank you.
And we would certainly appreciate your support as well. And Bob and I would welcome the opportunity for any questions you might have.
Thank you. Mr. Gleason, would you just identify yourself for the record, sir?
Yeah, sorry about that earlier. I thought I was on and it went blank.
That's okay.
My name's Bob Gleason. I'm Vice President of the Land Trust and Chairman of the Acquisitions Committee.
Thank you. Do any of my members have any questions? Either? Yes, Mr. Chadwick, sir.
I don't have any questions. I just want to say thank you to both of you for preserving land in this town.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Mr. Wertz?
I'd just like to add on to what Jared said. The preservation of land is crucial, but this particular project really stands out for me because we do not have, as far as I know, much open in that part of the town and in terms of land to be enjoyed and explored by its citizens. So it helps us to start rounding out a fullness of availability to different types of recreation across the whole town's space. So thank you. It's really important, I think, to spread out the way you are.
Thank you, Ms. Wertz. Any other questions or comments? Mr. Slavin? Yeah.
I just want to make a comment. I think this, and I don't want to go against what Trish is saying, but the Wildlands and several groups there, I believe we have 200 acres of land out there that are basically in conservation already. This is a small little area in the middle of everything.
But what it does, Mr. Slavin, is it ties a number of those areas together. So it makes a much more extensive experience for anyone who wants to go there. I think, Nancy, I don't know if you have the actual length or amount of trails that it actually ends up connecting. I think we might have talked about that at one point.
It's about another 5 miles of trails at this point is being planned. What has happened, Mr. Slavin, is that there aren't any sanctioned trails out there on the water district. There's some trails that have been used historically, but they're not marked, they're not maintained, they're not generally accessible to most people. And the land that of the Lyman Preserve, there are only a small number of trails on that because you can't get to the bigger piece that's up in the corner near Route 25 because you'd have to go over the Onset Water District and over private property. at this point. So it's the opening up and the cooperation between the organizations that this will foster. It's a linchpin or a keystone piece, if you will.
Thank you, Mr. McHugh.
My comment really is that it's a landlocked piece, with land, private land and public land all around it. That's all I'm getting at. But there is plenty of what we call conservation land out there right now. That's all.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Mr. Sullivan?
Yeah, I think this is very appropriate. It's, as you said, it's landlocked. There's no commercial viability to it, and it brings that all together. I think it hits so many good points. You could label it a home run. So well done in getting it.
Thank you. And thank you, both of you. We do have your presentation, so I don't need to ask you to forward us any further information. If we have any questions, we would get hold of either one of you, but I think we're all set. Am I correct? I'm correct. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thanks. Enjoy your evening. Would Derek Perry and Mercedes Gomes please raise your hands, or Dawn Mercedes Gomes, please? And George, I can't remember how to pronounce Giadakis, is that correct? So I believe you would be coming into the meeting as well. So Dawn, raise your hand. George, raise your hand. And if Derek, if he's here, and I don't see him. Dawn, I saw you earlier. Where are you? Dawn, I see your name. Can you raise your hand? It's Mr. White. Oh, you're under
She's
George.
there.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you.
We're all here.
Oh, okay, great. Would you identify yourselves for the record, please? Go ahead.
I'm Dawn Mercedes Gomes, project manager for Depot Auto.
George Kikitis, GS Design Group.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Angela Green for Depot Auto as well.
Thank you. We would like to hear your presentation. Remember, I had asked you to limit it to a 5-minute presentation, and then we will ask questions of you. Hopefully you have the answers to them. Go ahead.
I first want to thank the select board for having us. I'm just going to start off quickly before I pass the baton over. And I just want to say that this project is near and dear to my heart, as well as Derek, who is the primary owner of the property. We are both born and raised in Onset, still have property there, both of us, 2 houses, and we're Wareham High School graduates. Derek has owned a construction company locally for 25 years. He's might have done some of your driveways. And he has provided employment for a lot of people in Wareham, and that's what he wants to continue to do. We are focused here to ask about CPC funds for the restoration of the old Onset Junction train station. We saw a void in our community, and we thought it was a fantastic idea, and that's what we are pursuing, is something for our community. We have been reaching out. We have 400 plus signatures, and we're getting more. All the team members, all the business people that we hired for this project are all local. That was very important to me. I kept it all in-house. The only company that we hired that is not locally is my lawyer. So I'm going to pass it over to Angela. She's going to talk about numbers, and then George is going to present the architectural aspect.
Thank you, Dawn. Go ahead, George. Or go ahead.
So this is our team here. Again, the only person that's not local to Wareham is the lawyer. So we're requesting a grant for $400,000, and it's so that we can improve the foundation and external structure of the old Depot train station. So this train station was built in 1848. Currently, the Massachusetts Historical Commission recognizes this under 2 significances. They recognize it as a historical structure because of its design and architecture, but also because of the historic events that took place here, being one of the first railroads in the Cape Cod community and being a major port and depot for transportation and commerce. So we know that the CPA requirement is that if you provide funding to a private organization, that it has to have a community aspect and a community element. So our goal really is to make sure that the community is able to utilize this space. We're dedicating about 40% of this space. It's a 2,000 square foot space, and George will talk more about that soon. And we'll be using about 40% of that for a community meeting space. Right now, locally, there are a lot of people in the community. For instance, CPC grant funding was given to the Depot Crossing community. This is within walking distance. Right now, the only place for them to get snacks and things like that in the area is for them to walk to a local liquor store. And we want to change that perspective by offering them a space where they can come and have free Wi-Fi, come and have access to a cafe, and come and have access to a meeting space that is dedicated for them. It's not just going to be a part-time meeting space. They'll be able to book and reserve space all throughout the day because there will be some dedicated space to them. We also have plans to have a year-round community connection through a holiday experience. And so there's more in our slides talking about those community access elements that we plan to incorporate. So you're free to take a look at that a little bit later. So our goal really is to restore the past. We really want to preserve history and have a connection to history. So again, a lot of that is about the community element. We have about 400 community members who have already signed petitions saying that they actually support this project. We have local experts with 40 years of experience in historic restoration, as well as the owner of Depot Auto, again, has owned a business for 25 years in the construction industry. The total estimated project cost for the entire project at Depot Auto is $1.2 million, but the $400,000 we're requesting, again, is focused on bringing the foundation and building structure up to code, and really focus on that external element of the building to make sure that we're preserving history, using the funds to preserve history, the wood shingles, the arches, the beautiful arches that are still there. And so here's a little bit more about our funding mix. And here's a timeline of how we'll use that $400,000. So you can definitely take a look at this and see how we'll be dedicating the funds and dispersing the funds over the course of 15-month projection that we estimate the project to be completed in. We do know that a project of this nature will require ongoing maintenance. So we have some maintenance plans that we would love for you to take a look at. We do know that in the first few years, it'll cost roughly $3,000 to maintain the property. So in order to do that, we, again, as a private entity, not only are focused on dedicating 40% of the space to a community element, but there will be a cafe on site that will cover the maintenance fees. It will provide rent from that cafe in order to cover those maintenance expenses. And that portion of the business will gain a historic restriction. The building will be a dedicated space. Again, we want to restore it for a historical restriction to be placed on that building. And so I'm going to hand it over to George so he can talk more about the architectural plans.
Thank you.
So we dove into this head first and looked into the historic history of the depot. It was built in 1848, and it's gone through many changes, from paneled vertical siding. At one point it was stucco. We actually found a historic reference of that under some boards. And the most important thing about this is this was the entrance to Onset. Over here on the top left-hand slide, that was the trolley that brought you right into downtown Onset. This was
We don't see a different slide, sir.
It's the top left-hand image. Can you see that?
Nope.
How do we share that?
Sorry to interrupt you, but we don't see it, so.
Thank you.
Why don't we close the other one?
Close that one, yeah. There it is, right there. Okay. I apologize.
That's okay. Thank you.
So
That's fine.
Yeah, so these are some of the images that we've discovered on record throughout history. And top left-hand slide shows the trolley that brought you into Onset. This was like the last stop from Boston and the last stop from New York and Connecticut. into onset. So this whole approach from the trolley and this bringing you into onset was something we wanted to celebrate. I just wanted to let you realize that, because we use that as an idea for the whole redevelopment of the entire site, because we can restore the building, but if you don't make the site appropriate, it's almost money thrown out. So we have a bigger picture, and we want to show you that, even though this monies are for the depot itself. That's the existing site plan, and this is what we're thinking overall in the redevelopment. Over here in the top middle is the depot. What we were thinking of is having parking with actually a solar array over the top. This would, we know parking is a major element in onset, and we always have issues with it. But I mean, it's also a place where a charging station could happen, and someone can go use the facility and have a coffee and or lunch while their car's charging. There's an additional outbuilding on the right that we see as a possible another eatery or possibly another business related to the town, to the village. The way we've developed this is that the solar array in the parking kind of creates a screen to separate the business of the gas station, the garage, to the depot. But at the same token too, we have plans on emulating the garage building a little bit more like the depot station as well. How do I change it? So above is the existing conditions drawing of what's there now. It's pretty much been, changed dramatically from those original photographs, postcards that I showed you. Down below is a concept drawing of what it could be. We're reintroducing the paneling in the bottom, vertical siding, and most specifically, we're keeping those diagonal supports, which are structurally in great shape, need to be realigned and so forth. But that's what defines the iconic look of the station itself. We also looked into the time of the period. This was the Victorian era. This is kind of a color palette that was used in that time period for coloring. Now, this coloring could be adapted to the garage building to the left and to the outbuilding on the side, just as a concept of what that might look like. So this is kind of a quick perspective of what the depot could look like, possibility of eating outside in front. It's also the solar arrays to the right, outbuilding to the back, and if you build it, they will come.
Thank you. Thank you. You kind of used up your 5 minutes, so if it's okay with you guys, I'm going to ask that if my members have questions that they would ask them, and Mr. Chadwick had his hand up first. Mr. Chadwick.
Yes, thank you. Not so much a question, but George and Don, I'm going to start off by apologizing. I don't know you guys as well as I know Mercedes, but I just want to say I've known Mercedes for years now. I've seen firsthand what she has done for this community, its youth and its families. And honestly, anything that she has on her plate or she has in her head has always come out amazing. So I love the plans. I think they look great and nice.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from my other members? Ms. Wertz, we don't have a copy of the latest presentation, so I'll just remind myself to ask you for that. If you could send it to the office tomorrow, that would be great.
Okay.
Thanks.
I did send it via email, but I'll make sure.
Okay, I didn't check my email after like 4:30 or something, so, okay, thanks. Ms. Wertz?
I find this project interesting for a number of reasons. Let's just take it from the land perspective or the town perspective right now. We are looking at the town and in rehabilitating the town. We've got the WRA looking at Wareham Village. We've got the town looking at the Onset Park. this piece of land is in between the areas that we have a heavy focus on, and it's like a no man's land. And yet we have low-income housing down near there. We have Head Start going directly across the street from this. We've got the big school just down Minot Ave a little way. And as a town, if this area can be developed right, it can be its own little quasi-village, and it can be the link between the other large parts, the two other large parts of Wareham, from a social perspective. So I see this project, first of all, I'm a history geek. I love the fact that they're looking at historically keeping this building, but I think this is a real nugget to help encourage this whole little piece of the town grow right and be healthy and be productive and be able to tie together the two other parts of what we're looking at rehabilitating currently.
Thank you. Mr. Bessie, you're muted, sir. Go ahead, Mr. Bessie.
So I just have to say first, for several years now, driving by that property, it kind of made me sick driving by it all the time because it seemed like it just got more and more congested with trash and junk. And then one day I drove by and I started to see a change. And then I realized that change was because there was a new boss in town to clean it up. And then I heard about the project with them wanting to restore the train station, and looking at what they've done already, I'm excited to see what it's going to look like when it's done. I believe that the group that they've put together is going to make it what it used to be and have that tying link, going back to Trisha's point, between Wareham and Onset, and you just had this no man's space. And I just think that there can be a lot of useful things that could happen over in that area. And they have a vision, and I'm excited to try to do what we can as a town to help with that vision, and to see it actually looking at it and not just on paper.
Thank you. Mr. Slavin? Oh, okay. I have a couple of questions. Have you discovered that the building is on the historic register for the Commonwealth, or do you have documents that prove that the building is that old?
Yes. So we contacted the Massachusetts Historical Commission, and it is on the state registrar.
Thank you. And you understand that you need to have permits from the Conservation Commission, clearly because you're next to wetlands, and you also need a site plan review. Could you speak to the progress that you've made in getting any of those things done?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes, we hired JC Engineering, and we've been waiting for the site plan review from them, but I have made attempts to connect with Josh Flaherty, and he's actually said to hold off until we get the information from our engineering company. I did put in the appendix in the presentation, an email that I got from them today, just letting everybody know where we're at, that I have been pursuing them diligently, and they are working on the site plan reviews. I am well aware that we have a lot of things, a lot of boxes to check. But if you saw where we were January 28th to where we are today, I would hope that because of what you saw, that we were capable of producing in such a short amount of time, that you would have faith in what we could accomplish in the next couple months.
Thank you. And for the record, Mr. Faraday is the conservation agent for the town of Wareham. Go ahead.
Yes.
Good job. Go ahead.
I would just say our concentration is on the depot. It'll essentially be a special permit, but we're not doing anything that is not allowed. The redevelopment of the entire site is another story. But
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Slavin, you're muted, sir. You're still muted, sir.
Who's going to hold the HPR?
We are in talks with a nonprofit organization with that. We're still providing them with, doing research and things of that nature. We have 2 prospects actually, but one of them we're in favor of.
So the HPR for the public is a historic preservation restriction, which must be placed on the building if you receive CPC funds.
Absolutely, yes,
Thank you.
and that is in progress. We are working with that. We
Thank
don't
you.
want to put anything out there yet.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? No, Mr. Sullivan? No?
No, very nice presentation and really nice to see that being brought up to today, but with yesterday's sort of really neat touches on it. Nice job.
Thank you. Thank you very much, the 3 of you, for joining us this evening. Mercedes, if you wouldn't mind just double check, I'll double check with you tomorrow and make sure that the office did get a copy of the presentation. And again, I thank you for joining us this evening and have a nice evening.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
care.
Thank you.
Good night. Thank you. Mr. White, would you let in Patricia McCardle? Would you raise your hand, Ms. McCardle? And if Ms. Debonese is here, if she's going to be joining you, would she raise her hand as well? So I'm looking for Patricia McCardle and possibly Victoria Debonese. There's Ms. McCardle. Ms. McCardle, are you going to be the only presenter? So that's fine. Could you identify yourself for the record?
Yes, I am Patricia McCardle of Schoolhouse Rocks that owns the West Wareham School.
Excellent. And you are here this evening by yourself?
Yes, my
Yeah.
partner
Okay.
unfortunately became ill.
That's fine. Go ahead.
So let me just share my screen. And the presentation itself plays, there's videos in it. You can watch at a later time and listen to my talking head that's in it, but it's over 7 minutes. So I'm just gonna quickly go through it and narrate it live. So we are trying to preserve the exterior of the West Wareham School, which is located at 1073 Main Street.
All right, so I figure I'll start off with just a
So just to give a little background of myself, I am a real estate attorney, been so for 20 years. I grew up in Wareham. I started my family in Wareham. My son attended this school. I have a real interest in historic buildings. In fact, one of the projects that I did was renovating the Mattapoisett Grange Hall into condos back in 2017-18. My partner, Veronica, and her husband, Ernie, they also grew up in Wareham, have family in Wareham, have businesses in Wareham. Veronica is actually on the ZBA, so we are all very vested in what happens in Wareham. So the town bought the land back in 1914. The school was ultimately built by 1920. It served originally grades 1 through 6, later became kindergarten, and eventually aided kids with special needs.
some of the things that we
Sorry. One of the things we wanted to show you and what we're trying to do is there are these old shingles that crack right off. And that's what we're trying to restore. We don't want a vinyl side to this building. We are looking to preserve it just as it looks now, maybe changing the paint color of the trim, but otherwise trying to, so when you drive down Main Street in West Wareham, you will still have the nostalgia of seeing the old school there looking pretty much the same.
Here is just
this is the back side where you see there's been some broken windows over the years when it wasn't in use. This became the secret, I think, hangout of some teenagers who were breaking some glass and graffitied the building. The town ultimately painted that black to try to get rid of the graffiti, which I actually kind of like the black on the bottom. But in any event, it's in rough shape on its exterior and we'd like to restore it. So it always looks as it always has. So one of the $1 million questions is, what are we going to do with it? So this is located in the MR30 zone, which is your multifamily residential district. We've definitely been looking at housing. There's very limited things you can do with it. You could put a school in there, things of that nature, but I think it really calls for having some kind of residential units in it. the building is so large, each floor is actually 4,200 square feet. So putting just 3 units in there kind of seems like a waste of space. And so we wanted to, or plan to apply to the town for 8 to 12 units, probably not 12. That's probably a little too intense of a use for this building. And I think our comfort zone is really about 6 to 8. And we'd probably, right now, we're looking through going through the LIP process through the ZBA, which is kind of like a friendly 40B. So we can ask for more than the 3 units, and some of those units would then be affordable.
So
So the $1 million question is, what's this all going to cost? So we are asking for $80,000 from the CPC. The exterior project, we think, well, we have quotes for about $99,000. It may actually exceed that if we decide to dormer the roof for that additional housing. So depending on the size of the project that we go for, the costs are going to be about 1.2 to 2.5 in total. So as I said earlier, we are more comfortable with kind of the 6 to 8 units in this project. Oh, and sorry for the clerical error. And we think that'll cost about 1.6 million. So the 80,000 that we're seeking from CPC is about 5% of that total. And it's about probably 80% of just the exterior of renovating that portion of the building. So that restriction is only for the exterior of the building. We are certainly heavily interested in preserving all the beautiful woodwork that's on the inside of the building, but we do not have quotes on that or where we're going with that. But I think that's really what makes the building cool. And I think it would be a really great space for people to live. So I think it's a win-win. If CPC funds were granted to us, we can put a historic restriction on the building. And if that part of Wareham is forever preserved. So that is my quick presentation through that slideshow.
Okay, thank you. I would remind you that at the town meeting, you will be allowed only 5 minutes for a presentation. So you'll, okay. And did you forward a copy of this to our office? I don't honestly.
I did that yesterday. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Do any of my members have questions? Please raise your hand. Mr. Chadwick.
Yes, good evening. With relatively each bundle of shingles being about $120 right now, and you have 4 to a square. My guess is that 80,000, is that just for the shingles, or is that to do the trim as well and everything else?
Well, that ultimately will be the shingles, because what the CPC approved was only a portion of what it's going to cost for the exterior. So we will be left with funding ourselves, the roof and the trim, but it included the siding and it included glazing the glass.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Anybody else have any questions? Miss Wertz, was that your hand? I don't. Yes, Miss Wertz.
Hi, it's good to see you. But Patricia, we have the same name, and I never know whether you go by Patricia, Pat, Tricia. So
if you're Patricia, you must be fabulous. Yeah, I go by Patricia.
I go by Tricia. So
okay.
Nice to meet you. You mentioned you spend a little bit of time at the beginning about the historic value of the building. Are you going for claiming it as a historic site?
It's not on the National Register, and to be all honest, when I was listening to the last presentation, I didn't even look on the state register to see if it was there. I'm guessing it is not, but I definitely will double check that. I think it might be a good idea to get on the register, especially if we're going to put a historic restriction on it. I think it makes sense.
Yeah, you mentioned you might also put dormers in, and I don't know if changing the building like that would then knock you out of a historic preservation or not. Mine's more questions about this than it'd be nice to know, as from my perspective, what you're planning to do and if that impacts it when we go to vote.
Thank you, Ms. Wertz. Ms. McCardle, if you could answer that question, if you don't know it today, if you could send that to the office before next week, that would be great.
I have a limited answer, and I certainly can expand upon it later in an email, but it's my understanding with a historic restriction that as long as you're keeping with the period, if you are putting in dormers, that is acceptable, but that is something we need to work through with whoever is holding our historic restriction.
Thank you. Do any of my other members have questions or comments? Mr. Sullivan, please.
Thank you. Mr. Ricardo, I apologize because it's I missed the very poignant point. Is this is to for rental units thereafter, or is it for individual sale?
My ideal world is to do some condominiums, and would love to have some affordable condominiums that can be sold. I think homeownership is really important. So if we are able to do that, if the market bears that, that's what we will do, but otherwise it will be rentals.
Okay. It's so you think we're going through a lip, how many affordable do you think on that?
Could you explain what a lip is for the public, please, Mr. Sullivan?
We were just talking, essentially, we'll use the term friendly 40B on it, local. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Go ahead, Ms. McCardle.
So that would probably be 1 or 2 that would be affordable units to be sold. And we've even explored a little bit, although we're not sure we want to go down this road, is it's actually almost 2 acres there. So it would not be out of the realm of possibility. And I don't think it'd be over congested to put some units within the building, but then maybe put a separate building that's a duplex or something like that, just so we can add some additional housing there.
Okay. Any other questions from any of my members? Comments? No. Thank you, Ms. McCardle. I think we're all set for this evening, except for maybe you can expand on the questions that you need to expand on. That would be great.
Fair.
Thank you very much.
All
Good
right, thank
evening.
you. Have a good night.
Thank you. You as well. Mr. White, would you let Charlie Adams in? And thank you, Mr. Adams, for raising your hand. He will be presenting what's known as Wareham Littleton Drive, which is Penrose. Mr. White, I'm waiting for Mr. Adams. Mr. Adams, I see you. Well, I don't see you and I don't hear you. So would you unmute yourself and introduce yourself when you are live? Thank you.
Took a while to come in. Sorry about that. The computer
That's
was
okay.
not letting me in. My colleague Rio Sacchetti might be here as well. I don't know, is he?
If he is here, would he raise his hand, please? Rio Sacchetti, if you are here, please raise your hand. We will let you into the meeting. Mr. Adams, if you would identify yourself and begin the presentation. Thank you.
It's Charlie Adams, and I'm trying to figure out where, let's see, I can share my screen?
Yep.
All right, I'm not very technologically, nope, that's not the one, is it? Shoot, all right.
You did
Share.
better on the last one.
I did better on the last one, all right. Let's see, share, if I do share screen. And then the question is, where is it? Oh boy.
Why don't you talk, Mr. Adams? You did send us a copy of everything. So if you're not able to bring it up on the screen, my members all have copies of the presentation. Some of us have actually seen the presentation. It would be great if you could bring it up for the public to see it, but I would like you to do the presentation, sir.
Yeah, shoot.
There you go.
No, that's not it either. That's not it either. Shoot, I'm close to it.
There you go.
No, that's a different one. That's the Pride, isn't it?
Okay, yep.
Oh, you know, if my screen is up, I think I could probably wait. Let's try this. I think if I hit this.
Charlie, if you can't get it, what you can do is email it to me, and I'll.
I think I got it. I got it, didn't I? All right. Good. Wow, I'm so proud of myself. Okay, well, thank you. Sorry.
It's not there, sir.
There, can you see it now?
No.
We're seeing the cool Pride one.
Oh, shoot.
Can you email it to Mr. Sullivan and he will?
Oh, that'd be great. Can I do that? Yes.
Yeah,
yep.
Absolutely.
Okay. You want to take somebody else? I can come back on. Is that helpful or?
No, just Charlie, start talking.
Just start talking and email it first and start talking.
My name is Charlie Adams. The project that we have here is Littleton Drive. And it's a deal we've been working on with you folks for a long time. It's a town-owned property. Let me just hit send. We are right at the finish line here. And in fact, we are about to start construction this week, actually. That's the good news. I just tried to send it to you, but it may be too big, Derek. So if you have it in front of you, we could go, we can go through it. You guys all know where the site is located. It's along Swifts Beach Road. It's, as you know better than I, it was an old 1970s failed subdivision that the town took back and has been in its condition since that point in time. And in 2020, the town, through the Redevelopment Authority, put out an RFP to redevelop the site for affordable housing. We were very honored to be selected through that process as the winning bidder for the property. And we went through a process with the town on trying to refine the project. One of the things we were pretty excited about is when we first proposed on the project, the state is always looking for a lot of family housing more than senior. And what we originally had proposed was a smaller senior building and a larger family building. Working with the WRA, there was a real desire to try to make them a little bit more even. We were actually able to redo the plan and actually got permission from the state to increase the number of senior units and decrease the number of family. So originally we had, I think, under 40 senior units and over 50 family units. We now have 49 family units and 44 senior units. In 2021, we went through a process to get zoning approval. And last year we were successful with actually acquiring the credits to do the project. And so right now we are in the very last stages of closing the transaction. We're actually going to be starting construction this week and officially closing the transaction next week. If you all, I'm on the site plan now here that you may have in front of you. If you want to take a look at that. One of the things we're pretty excited about is the fact that, we're trying to keep as much of the site as open and undisturbed as we can. You'll enter the site through a long driveway, and as you get to the end of the road, you'll see the community building directly, the clubhouse directly located in front. So it will be the first thing that will greet the residents as they approach the site or any neighbors that come into the community. To the immediate left of that is the senior building. It's a 3-story two elevated building. And it will have its own, there will be some management space within that office. The main management office will be in the community building, or the clubhouse that we call it, that's across the street. That clubhouse will also have a community room, fitness room, and as well as the manage and maintenance space. The back of the building enters out onto a back rear porch that'll surround, there's the town green in the center with a playground at the far end. Surrounding the village are individual style units that will have 4 to 5 units per building and are designed as small sort of single family homes. If you can see some of the renderings, you can get a good sense of what the project really looks like. The senior building, which is at the top of the first slide of the renderings, it's a 44 unit building, 3 stories. I think the architects have done a really nice job of breaking it up in its massing, so it doesn't look like a big monolithic building. It's got different roof lines. It comes in, it steps out. There are different materials across it to make it look, as I said, it does not look imposing. All of the units that surround are supposed to, as I said, mentioned, look like single family homes. They will have 0 entry at the first floor for residents that might have some mobility challenges. So just quickly, I know my time is limited. If you see the project summary, as I mentioned, it's 93 units divided between the family and senior. The slide that I wanted to highlight on a little bit was the slide that says the community benefits. I hope you all have that one in front of you. So one of the things that we're really proud of is all of the things that we can do, not just for the residents that live there, but for the Wareham community at large that could come into the development. We really pride ourselves on all of our developments, creating welcoming places for the entire community, and that would be no different here at Littleton Drive. So the clubhouse community room would be available for not just residents that live on the site, but would be available for town members. In Eastham, the garden club uses it. We have yoga classes that come. A lot of folks use that. There are walking trails throughout. There's a playground, which would be available to anybody in the town to come and use. We're going to try to maintain the perimeter wooded walking paths throughout the site that people do use now, and they'll actually be better than they are now because we'll maintain them. And there'll also be a community garden as well. And we have new sidewalks throughout, which we really try to do to encourage people to come. I wanted to highlight a little bit about some of the other, you can kind of flip through the slides and see the various renderings. I don't think I need to dwell on those. It's very much like you've seen before, because we've been, before you. The slides I wanted to quickly highlight is you can see the community room, the Village at Nauset Green. That's very much what it would look like at this site as well. That'd be a place where residents can gather. We threw in some slides that showed what some of our unit finishes are like for you to get a sense of that. And then the 3 slides here towards the end I wanted to highlight were about other places where we've used CPA funds. So the first one we have here is the Village of Nauset Green in Eastham, where we actually were able to utilize 1.75 million of CPA funds. We got over $1.5 million from the town of Eastham itself. And then we were able to, both Orleans and Wellfleet were able to contribute, which was pretty exciting. I think the first time that had been done. Those funds there represented 7.6% of the total costs. In Orleans, we got a tremendous amount of money. We got 2.5 million from various CPAs or CPC funds. And there we even expanded to more towns. So as you can see on that slide, Cape Cod 5 is the deal that will be closing this summer. We have 2.5 million of CPA money at 7% of the costs. And we were able to get funds from 6 surrounding communities to help with that. I included here Littleton Drive, which you can see here. So this is much different in this regard. Right now, the total cost is almost 46 million. We are just seeking 300,000. As you may have recalled, we originally came to you about a year or so ago. It was an $800,000 ask. We've been able to get that down to 300 because we also went out and got a federal home loan bank grant application for about 650. So it's sort of paired with that to get that cost down. And this request is only 0.6% of the development costs. And those additional funds are really for sort of the community benefits that you saw on that last slide. We really want to be able to include those things, and that money would really help us. The last thing is just to share with you the capital financing stack that you see on the next page. One of the things that you sort of heard repeatedly throughout this, and you will continue to hear, is how impactful construction costs and interest rates have been over the last year or 2 years. If we brought this slide to you last year, the capital stack was 40 million. So, there's been incredible pressure on costs and interest rates. We've been very fortunate to figure out ways to plug that gap through various ways that we've gone through Federal Home Loan Bank and other places. So we're pretty excited about the fact that we're able to do that and continue to move the project forward. And we haven't had to do a significant amount of value engineering, which would change what we had promised to deliver to the town. So I will stop there and ask questions. Wait for questions. Sorry about the technology issues.
That's okay. We did have the presentation forwarded to us. So any questions from any of my members?
I would have had to log into MSN through your portal, so it wouldn't let me through the Microsoft app go in through there. Yeah.
I apologize.
I'm not part of your team, Charlie. So.
Although you'd be a great member of our team, we'd love to have you.
Any questions from my members? Would you raise, Mr. Bessie?
All right, I think I'm unmuted now.
Yeah.
So, full disclosure, I was not a fan of this project when it first came out. But after going through conservation meetings, at the point I was on the Conservation Commission, and just really starting to learn more about the project, I think the thing that really swung the project for me was the community aspect that they wanted to bring to it. It's a community where people are going to live, but to the rest of the town. I like the ability to have access to certain features that will be part of this development, which I think is important because more spaces for people to do things. It's going to encourage people to get out. playgrounds are never a bad thing to have. I have 5 kids, so playgrounds I frequent quite often. So being able to have another one, and I live in this, that was another reason at first why I wasn't really a fan of it, because I'm like, more traffic, all those things. But I really do like what you guys have done with the project and what you're proposing to do for the community, and and asking for community preservation funds. I mean, it's nice to have the community aspect, and I'm just really excited to get this project started and get it finished so we can actually enjoy some of these amenities that you're proposing to add and make available to the rest of us that don't necessarily need the place to live.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. That means a lot. Thank you.
Any questions or comments from the rest of my board? Ms. Schwartz?
So, Charlie, with CPC funds, we deal with all the time. Should we be granting them to for-profit companies? We just had a small, ultimately for-profit company that presented just before you, a few people before you. When I look at the expansion and growth of cost of building, is that still something that a town needs to help contribute to? And I think perhaps in some cases it is, but more importantly, with what you're doing with your design and what your company's proven it will do based on facilities you've already developed, is you're not making a housing project. You're creating a neighborhood, and a neighborhood that blends in with the other neighborhoods that are around it. It becomes a continuous part of the town. And I think that's crucial. So if these dollars that you're asking for are dedicated to ensuring that we have a neighborhood and we have an extension of other neighborhoods where the people feel very comfortable crossing and living with each other and doing recreation with each other. I think that's a really, really valid point, especially where Littleton is located. So I thank you and your company for looking at that type of design and for working with this town to keep that in the design of your facility.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much. And just to highlight on that point, I mean, these are monies that aren't for Penrose. These are monies for the development and for it. So it's going directly into the project, into all those community benefits. So
thank you. Any other questions or comments from my members?
Not really a question or a comment or me deliberating, but Charlie, there's something that just a bit of a rumor that in the plans there was a exit sort of through the back end to the other neighborhoods. That was something we saw recently with the gas main and accents in the past. Is that still a part of the project?
So there is a emergency means of egress at the back of the project, but it's emergency means of egress only. It's not for travel purposes at all.
Travel, but
yeah, that was a really important. That's always been there from day one. It's always been part of the plan. It was approved at the ZBA, but it was always specifically that would not be a route through the site or for people to access that were living there, the site from that neighborhood. That was pretty important to the neighborhood behind there, and we pushed hard to keep it that way so that there would not be, we wanted to have that not be an entry into the site.
Perfect. Yeah. So just to clarify, it's an emergency only.
Emergency only.
In the case of emergency, because I know there were some concerns that wasn't going to be in there as emergency. So perfect.
No, that's a requirement, and that hasn't waived. It has not changed.
Again, I think I've said emergency 7 times, so I will stop.
Okay. Thank you. If there are no questions or other comments, I will say good night to Mr. Adams and thank you very much.
Great. Again, I apologize for the technical difficulties, but good thing you guys had it. So,
and we will see you on Thursday.
It's Thursday. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Cosgrove, Mr. White, would you let Mr. Cosgrove into the meeting? He's got his hand up. Thank you, Mr. Cosgrove, for being one step ahead of me. Mr. Cosgrove will be speaking on the citizen petition article, which he presented. You have a copy of it, and he will be doing a less than 5-minute presentation.
Good evening. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you. We can't see you, sir.
You're better off, believe me. Uh,
Would you
Madam Chairman,
identify yourself for the record?
this is Barry Cosgrove, Blackmore Pond, Ward 5. Through you, Madam Chairman, members of the Select Board and the distinguished Mr. Sullivan and Bowen, thank you all for your service to our town. Please recognize this petition as a measure of support for what you are trying to do with the dam, and to let you know that citizens have your back in what may involve some uncomfortable moments in trying to get this dam ownership behind us so the real work can get done. Also, this petition allows for expanded visibility to the ownership issue, which we think can only help the town's cause. I think all of you are familiar with the location and the history of the dam, so I'll be brief. But it's important to understand that the dam is recognized as a high hazard dam because it's likely, not possible, but likely to cause loss of life or serious damage to homes, railroads, important public utilities and buildings. And in addition, as you know, for some 20 years, there's been a consistent pattern of analysis of the integrity of the dam, and it is very, very poor. You know of your investment right next door with the nail factory, you know of the other personal residents, and I'm sure you know of the child care center occupied, as reported by the website of this facility, by infants and children ages 1 month through 12 years, all in the zone of risk for this dam. Beginning 42 years ago this summer, the Army Corps of Engineers sent a report to the then governor of the state of Massachusetts, and continuing ever since, multiple public records, including real estate tax assessments, real estate bills, real estate tax payments, and expert title examinations have all concluded that AD Makepeace is an owner of this dam. The 2 expert title exams place Makepeace share at least 65%. In addition, the Office of the General Counsel of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Department of Conservation and Recreation likewise concurred with this ownership conclusion. As a result, the state has repeatedly informed AD Makepeace that it has been identified as a legal owner of the dam, but according to the state, AD has refused to submit the required registration forms acknowledging ownership. Consequently, the State Office of Dam Safety has now ruled that until it receives completed ownership registration forms from all of the owners of the dam, it will take no action on permit filings in connection with the bridge over the dam or the dam removal or repair. So bottom line, the desired and important removal of the dam is now blocked by AD's Makepeace's refusal to acknowledge dam ownership or to come forward with verifiable proof of non-ownership. So while this body has coordinated some recent dam removal design activity and has even voted that the dam be removed, a decision for which you are to certainly be congratulated, you now have a new dam of a sort, a private property owner that is holding up the solution. And worse, all the costs and your hard work to date have been paid for solely by taxpayers and not by the alleged private owner, who has used the dam for decades to capture water for free to make a profit, and then left the water in a state we all know to be disgraceful. The risks here are huge. Let me give you an example. The engineers' estimates that a failure of the dam at even a half the probable maximum load would send a torrent of water moving at 5.7 feet per second. The front door of the child care center is about 250 feet from the dam. That means 19-foot high dam is going to release water that would get to the daycare center within 40 seconds. 40 seconds. It will not get right up to the door of the clinic in that 40 seconds, but shortly after that, it will. Napping infants are defenseless, of course, and the adults may not be able to do much. And don't forget, the same type of storm that may contribute to the topping of the dam would also likely mean that the ocean level would rise from the other direction, i.e. the bay. And the engineers have estimated that could go up to 14 feet high up against the dam. The Massachusetts Department of Dam Safety told ADM, quote, "You as dam owner are responsible for any adverse consequences that occur downstream of your dam as a result of damage that occurs to your dam during an extreme rainfall," but still nothing. The town, of course, did bring legal action years ago in a very well drafted complaint that laid it out very clearly that there was unjust enrichment. But that case was dropped by instruction. And now here we are, years later. The dam is a risk to Wareham citizens' health, safety, and welfare, especially those kids. Please vote yes on this article. Our liability position is dreadful enough, but a no vote would only add to that risk and be optically weak in any discussions with the private owner. And what are we going to say to any family member who loses a loved one or has damage to their property? Private dam owners across the state with limited resources have apparently attempted to play the "it isn't my damn" gimmick, hoping to freeload on taxpayer money to the foot of millions. AD Makepeace has the money and then some to pay its fair share. Unless, of course, it can prove non-ownership in the face of the avalanche of evidence to the contrary.
Mr. Cosgrove, I'm just going to remind you, you have 5 minutes, sir.
Thank you.
Sorry.
I just completed. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you very much. Do you have a written copy of what you've delivered to us this evening or not?
I would gladly send this over to you. Sure.
Would you mind doing that tomorrow? That would be appreciated.
Of course.
Thank you. Do any of my members have any questions of the gentleman? If you do, please raise your hand. No comments or questions? No, Mr. Sullivan?
I'm used to Mr. Cosgrove asking me questions, so
Ah,
take advantage of it.
go ahead.
Thanks, Barry.
You're welcome.
All set. Thank you very much, Mr. Cosgrove. Mr. White, would you let Miss Claire Smith in? And I believe she will be joined by Marie Grieg. Both of them have their hands up. Thank you, Mr. Cosgrove. And I look forward to getting the information from you tomorrow. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have with us this evening Marie Grieg and Claire Smith. Ms. Smith is the lead petitioner on a citizen's petition article to create a revolving fund. And I would ask that both you ladies introduce yourselves and then proceed with your presentation, and I'll remind you the 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Claire Smith. I am a member of the Swiss Beach Playground Group. I don't have a long presentation. My request at town meeting is to add a revolving fund to the town's revolving fund chart that would allow for maintenance of playgrounds that have been rehabilitated and made new. Over the past few years, there has been a lot of money put into the playgrounds that haven't been maintained over the years. And so if you add up what has been spent either through CPC funding or private donations for the Lukey Playground, the Oakdale Playground, the Lopes Playground, Shangri-La, and the Swiss Beach Playground, you're looking at pretty close to $1 million. And like anything that any of us own, it only makes sense that if you have something, you need to take care of it. If you look at the open space plan that was done back, I believe in around 2017, one of the things that they actually spotlighted was to upgrade and to maintain the existing recreational areas and playgrounds. So I think it's important that we do going forward take care of them. Some of the playgrounds now will have picket fencing, and if a picket fence somehow gets damaged, it just makes sense that municipal maintenance could go in and repair it. I know that groups can apply for CPC funding, but it's a long process, it's a tedious process, and it doesn't make sense that a small repair has to take 6 months or a year to go for funding and then to go for town meeting. It just makes sense that if there were funds available, that municipal maintenance, open space could let municipal maintenance know that something needs to be done, and the money would be there to go in and just repair it. I have not been over to the Lukey, but I understand that there's already a piece of equipment that does need some attention. And, you know, the people that have raised this money, they're going to take care of it. They're going to continue to take care of it. They're going to continue to go for grant money and to raise funds to maintain them over the years. But they are town playgrounds, and it would make sense that we can't physically go in and do the repairs, that it has to be town orientated, that municipal maintenance or someone has to go in and do it. So to be able to have the funding available just makes sense to me after spending that kind of money. Going forward, we maintain it and take care of it. You know, just a matter of the wood fiber, the matting, little things like that, pickets. Maybe if something got a little rusted and it needed to be painted, it could be just sanded and painted. But if we take care of it, it's going to last. And I think that's important. I think it's been a long haul for some of these playgrounds and playground groups to have to raise the funding and to get the funding. And it's a long process. And I just think it's time that we have to take care of and appreciate all the hard work that's been done. So I just would like to see a revolving fund added to the town's revolving fund so that that could happen. Municipal maintenance doesn't have money in their budget to do these kinds of things, and it's not fair to ask them to take money out of their budget. And I just think that this is a way that we can take care of them going forward.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Ms. Grigg, do you choose to add anything to the presentation?
No, I fully support this article, and Dave Menard does a great job at what he has, but I think this will give him that little extra, and the volunteers, he's just done an amazing job, and I just want to support this article. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chadwick, you had a question? You know what's
Yes.
really fun? I just have to say that because Mr. Sullivan got away with sort of being funny with Mr. Cosgrove. Ms. Smith is the one who has always said 5 minutes when she was town moderator. She was always limiting the discussion. So I got even with you.
You did.
Okay, Mr. Chadwick, sir.
Yes, Ms. Smith, I agree with this. I like it. I think the price, and I don't know if this is updated or not, it says the transfer annual sum of 100,000. I think that might be a little high, but I agree with it 100%. We need to keep everything up to date, and everything needs to be worked on. But this also brings me back to a point of, you know, this kind of just turns us back around. The town voted in the 90s to get rid of Park and Recs, and that's what Park and Rec's whole job is to do, is to maintain parks and recs. You know, I feel like I need to make a point there that it was a dumb idea for them to get rid of it, and we're paying for it now. But thank you very much for submitting this. I agree with it 100% and I support it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from my board members? It's just Mr. Slavin. You're muted, sir.
Just a correction, CPC does not do maintenance. CPC will support a project, but you cannot use CPA, money for maintenance at all, just so you know. The other issue, of course, is will $100,000, how much will that cover for extra bodies that Mr. Menard is going to need? And I'm going to say that number is not enough. Two employees will greatly exceed $100,000.
It's not a CPC request, sir. I just want to make that clear.
I'm just making a comment that
Okay.
said that they could do maintenance.
Yeah.
They can't.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Did I say CPC or C?
No,
Yeah.
I think Miss.
No. Okay,
Okay.
Thank you very much, ladies. And Mr. White, if you would take Ms. Smith, Ms. Grigg, and Mr. Cosgrove out of the meeting. And I'm going to invite Ms. Jean Welch and Mr. Scanlon. Please raise your hand. These are two individuals from the Swifts Beach area. I believe of the 60 some odd members who were in attendance of this meeting, about 45 of them probably are interested in this presentation. So I will wait for the other individuals to be removed from the meeting, and then I will ask Ms. Welch and Mr. Scanlon to introduce themselves and to speak to the article, which is a citizens petition, which is to terminate contract 2022-001, the Swifts Beach Sewer Contract. And I am pretty positive that there isn't a resident in Wareham that doesn't know about this issue. So I would ask that the petitioners speak to the issue within a 5-minute period of time, and then we would be asking you questions if that's okay. So if you would identify yourselves for the record, Ms. Welch and Mr. Scanlon.
Hi, I am Jean Welch. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you.
I'm Jean Welch and I live down in the Swift Beach area. And you're right, the neighbors have, there's been a groundswell of information about this project. And we got signatures, over 350 signatures within a 2-week time period when we decided to put this forward to the town meeting in April. So I appreciate your asking us to present it tonight. Since the town meeting in spring of 2022 voted to have this project move forward, the residents have been trying to get information about the impact of their homes and the electrical system and the ground and the grinder pumps and all. Information has been contrary to what was originally voted for. So residents have been trying to get answers to questions, and the more questions they ask, the more the answers become vague about how they'll each be impacted. More and more of the residents have become less confident about the decision that was made to begin with to actually abandon the current sewer system, which is a gravity sewer system, and the topography in Wareham is more appropriate to have a gravity sewer system than the low pressure sewer system. So more and more residents are learning more about the sewer systems and are wondering why it was chosen to abandon the system that we have in place already. They've been told that it's unrepairable, that residents have damaged the lining of the pipes, and that it's in disrepair and can't be repaired and has to be replaced. The residents have less confidence about the original decision and would like to have the sewer commission and the town rescind the decision that was made a year ago to replace the gravity system with this new system. And they'd like them to go back and cancel the contract that was arranged to have this new low pressure sewer system put into place. They'd like a really cohesive study done of the current system. There are pipes in the ground that can be repaired. They'd like to review the video. There have been video films made of the system, but when the residents ask for information about those systems and the videos of the current system, it's vague about what condition they're in. So we'd like to review the video of the pipes and determine how and at what cost it would be to repair the current system. But they'd like the town to take a step back, rescind the contract that's in place right now, and actually go back to the current system and see what it would be to repair it.
Thank you, Ms. Welch. I'm going to remind everyone that the select board are not responsible for the sewer system in the town of Wareham. There's a separate elected body known as sewer commissioners, and they are, in fact, the people responsible for implementing whatever plans. I have invited the petitioners here this evening because I think it's extremely important for the petitioners to be heard by the town and for us to listen to why they would like what they would like, which is to rescind a contract. I'm not going to comment on how a contract might be rescinded or not and whatever the ramifications of that would be. I don't think that's an appropriate comment at this time. So I would ask that none of you ask that question. But if you have other questions of Ms. Welch or Mr. Scanlon, who is here, please raise your hand. Is Mr. Slavin, are you raising your hand? It's a pencil. I can't hear you, sir.
I think he was muting.
Oh,
I was fighting with the wife.
okay. You have no questions, sir?
Absolutely not.
Okay, do any of you have any questions or comments? No? Okay. Ms. Welch, thank you very much, and Mr. Scanlon for appearing this evening, and thank you for the rest of the individuals who are in the audience and listening to this presentation. I would ask Ms. Welch if you have a written copy of what you've said this evening, that you sent it to us at the office. If you don't, that's fine, because we do have it recorded.
Yes, and we've submitted a statement.
I'm sorry?
We did send a statement last Thursday of the summary of what I just gave.
Okay, great. I'm sorry, we obviously have had a long meeting tonight, and I just
That's
honestly
okay.
don't. Okay, thank you very much. Do you have any other questions or comments for us?
No, I appreciate the time you've spent, and we are prepared to go to town meeting and present as well.
Excellent. Thank you so much, and good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. We will not be hearing from Mr. Buckland or from Mr. Sullivan this evening on the CPC articles for the Tremont Nail or for Bayview Park. My comment on Bayview Park is that we probably have heard this many, many times, but again, in the interest of trying to move through this meeting in an appropriate time frame, I would ask that we put those off. Which leaves us with item M, 7M, which is discussion and possible vote to review the fee structure of the earth removal permit fee. The earth removal permit fee is covered under our bylaws. From time to time, the selectmen have looked at the fee structure, and I actually submitted an article which is on the town meeting warrant, which is to hire an engineer to look at the earth removal situation in the town of Wareham. I have done some research, and other towns charge anywhere from $15 to $25 or $35 for a cubic yard. We charge $25 for a cubic yard. Other towns also have an administrative fee.
Madam Chair, I'm sorry, your cents. You're saying cents, not dollars.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yeah. Other towns do have administrative fees of up to $200 per permit. And so I would like the members of this board to understand why I have put this forward, which is because it clearly is an issue in the town of Wareham. And I would like you to all do a little bit of research and homework to see what we might come up with, which would be the only thing that we could do right now would be to increase the fee. But we do have the opportunity to present a bylaw change to the bylaw review committee if you would choose to do that. So I don't have any other comments about that. We don't need a vote, but if you have any other, yes, Mr. Slavin, there are several towns in Massachusetts who have you can Google it, earth removal fees, and you can find a lot of information. Mr. Slavin?
I think it was, I try to actually increase the fee to $1. We compromised to 50 cents and still never went through. The 25 cents is really insufficient. Wareham has actually excellent soils of different types that are highly valuable. The soils, if you look at what it sells for versus what we're getting, is just, it's a travesty. Thank you.
Well, it's not just the soil. The sand that we have in this town is actually an extremely rare kind of sand, and actually is imported to some countries on the other side of the world from my research.
Just so you know, I consider sand as part of the soil.
Well, there's a difference between sand and loam and gravel or loam.
It's still the same idea.
Okay. Mr. Chadwick, I'm going to ask you because I think you might know the answer. What does a yard of loam go for, or a yard of gravel, or a yard of sand, roughly?
Loom is up to about, depending on who you purchase it. Right now, it's anywhere from 22 to 30, depending on if it's heavily screened or not.
A yard?
A yard.
Okay. Gravel?
Gravel, depending on if you're looking at 3/4 pea stone, It can be anywhere from 45 and up.
And sand?
Sand is highly sought after because it is used in concrete. And I can't give you a price of it off the top of my head. I have it all in my phone. I would just have to find it, unfortunately.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments about what is going to be before you in the April town meeting? That would be my presentation for that article, to be honest with you, is that we should be looking at something that makes more sense, as in dollars and cents. Okay, it was a pun, it was terrible. It's late in the evening.
I think we should, yeah, we should do some research, because some of these, like 3/4 inch crushed gravel is $12.30 per ton.
Where are you going for that?
Right now, that's looking at Carroll Concrete. So, but you know, there's some of these things. So that's what I'm trying to figure out. Let's make sure let's go out. Let's get some prices for it. We'll have municipal maintenance get the prices.
Okay.
Can I have that address? I got to redo my driveway.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I would ask, I guess, Mr. Sullivan, if you could ask municipal maintenance to do some homework, and I would ask the rest of you to maybe Google other towns and how they structure their fee structure, and whether they have admin fees as well as the per cubic yard fee as well. And we'll bring that up at some time in the future. And then we will go, I told you earlier in the evening, we are not going to be voting on any of the recommendations for the annual town meeting. So I will ask that I'm going to read it, because I guess I can read faster than you guys can, hopefully. Discuss the notice for the April 24th, 2023 special town meeting. So to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Plymouth Shires, to either of the constables of the town of Wareham, in the name of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and in accordance with the provisions of Division 1, Article 1, Section 3 of the bylaws of the town of Wareham, amended, you are hereby directed to notify and warn the legal voters of the town of Wareham that a special town meeting has been called by the select board and to be held at 7:30 p.m. on Monday, April 24th, 2023, at which time the business of the town meeting shall be transacted. The warrant for this meeting will open on Friday, March 17th, 2023. The last day for submission of articles to be inserted in the warrant is Monday, March 27th, 2023. Petitions and articles will be accepted up until 5:00 p.m. at the above address. The warrant for this meeting will close on Tuesday, March 28th, 2023. And you are hereby directed to serve this notice by posting an attested copy thereof upon the town's principal bulletin board on or before Wednesday, March 8th, 2023. Hereof fail not, and make due return of this posting with your doings thereon to the town clerk. Given upon our hands at Wareham the 7th day of March in the year 2023. A true copy attest. Wareham Select Board, Judith Whiteside, Chair, Patricia A. Wertz, Clerk, Alan H. Slavin, Ronald S. Bessie, Jared S. Chadwick. And I believe all of you have been asked to sign that. So pursuant to the within notice, the constable will sign. I've notified the inhabitants, etc. So may I have a motion? Where did I lose my agenda? Ms. Wertz, to move that we adopt and call this meeting. I think I wrote this. Yeah, go ahead.
So I make a motion that we vote to hold the 2023. There's two. This is the special Springtown meeting. You want the annual one?
No, I want the special.
Okay. To hold the 2023 special Springtown meeting within the 2023 annual Springtown meeting.
As read by Ms. Whiteside. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion for the call? Hearing none, I will go for a roll call vote. Mr. Slavin?
Yes.
Mr. Bessie?
Yes.
Mr. Chadwick?
Yes.
Ms. Wertz?
Yes.
Myself, yes, it is called. Mr. Bessie, were you able to sign the paperwork?
I signed everything that was available to sign today.
Thank you so much. Okay, great. Is there any, Mr. Chadwick?
I got the list, if you wouldn't mind going back for 1 second, if that's okay, just to present real quick to the public of, so they have a rough idea. And these are Cape Cod prices.
Can, let me just get that vote. Did I just
Yeah,
get the
sorry.
vote? Okay,
Uh,
yeah, okay. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I will go for a roll call vote. Mr. Slavin,
Yes.
Mr. Bessie,
Yes.
Mr. Chadwick,
Yes.
Ms. Wertz,
Yes.
and myself. Maybe we did that twice. 500. Sorry. Mr. Chadwick, you can answer some questions now?
Yes, all right, so start off with bluestone stone dust, anywhere from 3/8 to 3/4. You're looking at $36 a ton. 3/8 white is $75 a ton. Pine, you're looking at pine mulch, all around mulch, you're looking at 25 to 45. Native stone is 36 to, looks like 36 all around. Loam is anywhere from 17 to 34 a yard. Dense grade 34. Sand is regular sand fill, which is unscreened, is $12 per yard. Percolated sand, which is most of the sand that we have around us, is $25 per ton. So just a idea, and there's a whole bunch of other stuff here. And like I said, these are all Cape Cod prices from places that I've used down Cape.
Thank you.
So they sell it for $25 a ton and we get 25 cents a ton. I mean, makes a lot of sense.
No, we get it per cubic yard.
Oh, is it cubic yard or is it the ton?
No, we get cubic yard. We
Okay,
charge
so-
cubic yards.
Yeah,
Okay.
sand is, wow, well, yeah, sand's per the ton.
Okay, so it's not apples and oranges, but we need to be able to figure out, tonnage versus cubic yards, that kind of stuff. So I think that's part of what we should be looking at.
Yeah,
If I'm not mistaken, isn't the cubic yard of what is removed is what they're talking about?
I can't answer that question because I didn't write the bylaw.
Well, you're not incorrect. There's different things. The cubic yardage from the tons removed are really compacted. And once you've gone through the screening and the process, technically, now what they're selling isn't as dense. Does that make sense? That's because it's not as compacted over the years. And
I believe the term is fluff.
Fluff. Okay, that's what we use when we talk budgets, and we cut out fluff. And I think a cubic yard's about 1.35 or 1.4 tons or something, if I'm not mistaken. So.
Okay. All right, thank you. So we do need to do some more work on that. All right, I'm going to move forward to the town administrator's report, please.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chairperson. So we'll go through. There's lots of interesting notes from him tonight. So you all know that the library has been temporarily closed. We're going to be going tomorrow on day 3. I just wanted to give the board I gave you an update before, but maybe for some of those that haven't heard it. Approximately 1:40 Sunday morning, I received a phone call from Mr. Menard. He was on site at the library. They had been called to the site, luckily by a resident, I believe, was walking their dog. So thank goodness their dog had to go out in the middle of the night, and they'd seen some water coming out of the library. What had happened was there was a water main break or water line break over on Morris Ave that had been temporarily shut down. When it was turned back on, it looks like it had not been they had not gone to one of the hydrants and blown it out. So there was still some debris in there, which made its way directly to it looks like directly to the library, or all that sand sediment, which got right into our mechanical room, causing basically the pipe to pop, if you will, for lack of a better term. We had anywhere between, depending on the room, 1 to 2 inches of water in there, including their whole meeting room, going through the mechanical, bathroom, hallway, and up front desk area. They had ServPro on site. We've had them on site continuously. We're still trying to air it out. Obviously, those carpets were inundated with water. And the main thing right now is that the suppression system is down until we get that fixed too. So we're not having that open to the public as well. And again, it gives us a little bit more time for the keep the water clean up. It will be obviously a claim with our insurance company and what happens from there. You know, it's ironic. We just did the roof. We still need to do the flat roof. And frankly, I'm going to be recommending through capital for the HVAC system there and the big window that you see, the ornamental window, which
We don't know.
installed on there whatsoever when it was originally built, has been leaking like a sieve as well. Well, I think our poor library director is either getting it from above or the water below right now, and he's pretty worked up over it. But I think their plan is tomorrow to try and do curbside, and because they've been getting a lot of calls from people, so they're going to try and be out there and arrange and coordinate with folks so that they can either you know, you can always drop off, but so that they can pick up some of their books. So they're trying. And again, I'm not going to open it up to the general public till we have the suppression system done. And it's just waiting on a part, should be in basically any day, but you know, it's not like you're ordering it from Amazon. So. Yeah, so I had hoped that I don't think I've got any good news, but I don't have any other bad news for you. So I wanted to just really go through and run through with that.
Okay, thanks very much. I'm going to go to liaison initiative and board comments. Mr. Slavin.
I just have one. Basically, there is a bill. Actually, I have two. There's a bill sitting at the state. Basically, what it is a bill for infrastructure and public safety complexes. It is mirroring the MSBA program. And as we all know, the MSBA program allowed us to get 70% of the cost of our elementary school paid for. It is extremely important that this is a strong possibility. And what is a real problem for us is we have to basically move forward and get basically what I call a shovel-ready project ready. Because when this comes, like anything else, there's X number of dollars, and there'll be a lot of people running after them. So we need to watch this carefully. The other thing is today I submitted testimony at the State House for the Chapter 90 program with the actual committee through the Mass Municipal Association Legislative Group, which I'm a member of, for transportation. We're basically looking for $330,000 a year, 2 years at a time. It should be $330 million, a little spacey today, over the next 2 years and release 2 years at one time. So we'll see what happens with that. As far as today's presentations, I purposely made virtually no comments at all. I'll save all my comments for the next time we discuss these things. I didn't feel as though it was proper to sit there and go after individuals who are bringing articles forward at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bessie, liaison initiative comments?
I am going to wrap them up and save them for a future meeting.
Thank you. Mr. Chadwick?
None at this time.
Ms. Wertz?
Mostly what I've been in is listening to the various organizations that I'm involved with talk about how they're getting ready for a town meeting. So I would leave it at, you know, that's basically the focus for the next month or so.
Okay, thank you. I would just let you all know that Ms. Wertz and I did actually tour the Swifts Beach area this past weekend. It was a little windy and it was a little cold. with two of the sewer commissioners to actually be able to understand the issue in the Swifts Beach area. We, again, as I stated earlier, the sewer commissioners are the people bearing that load right now, but I think it's incumbent upon us to be able to understand the issues. There are, to me, if I lived in Swifts Beach, I probably would have signed the petition. Let me just put it that way. There are several questions I think that the residents have had, and I don't know whether they were answered or not. It's clear that the residents feel that they were not answered. And I think it's very important for us to listen to our constituents and to understand the problems and concerns that they have. And I will also let you know that I've been going to a lot of meetings the past couple of weeks, trying to catch up on who's going where with the town meeting. And there is a signing of documents Thursday at 10 o'clock in the morning. The WRA will be closing on the Penrose development at the Littleton Drive development, and the public has been invited to that as well. And I guess that's it. Ms. Wertz, I would accept a motion on the revised minutes of June 28th.
Make a motion that we vote to approve the revised meeting minutes of June 28th, 2022.
Is there a second to that?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. The revision includes adding some documents in the list at the end of the minutes. Is there any further discussion on the motion to approve those minutes? Hearing none, I will go for a roll call vote. Mr. Slavin,
Yes.
Mr. Bessie,
Yes.
Mr. Chadwick,
Yes.
Ms. Wertz,
Yes,
myself, yes, 500. And the minutes of February 21st, Ms. Wertz, please.
make a motion that we approve the meeting minutes for February 21st, 2023.
May I have a second to the motion?
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve those minutes. Is there any further discussion on that motion? Hearing none, I will go for a roll call vote. Mr. Slavin, Mr. Bessie,
Yes.
Mr. Chadwick,
Yes.
Ms. Wertz,
Yes,
myself, yes, 500. Item D will be on an agenda next week. And I'm going to ask if any of you have any further business, and seeing none of you raising your hand. And I want to thank all of you. It's a long meeting tonight. We accomplished a great deal. We heard from a lot of petitioners, and I appreciate the time and effort that those petitioners and article seekers put into their presentations this evening. And I also appreciate the fact that we were able to keep on track with a 5-minute limit and some interesting conversations. Mr. Slavin.
You want me to say time to adjourn?
Yes, I do.
I did.
Is there a second to his, may I adjourn, please?
second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Okay, I'm going to go for a unanimous vote to adjourn this evening. Hearing, no, it's not debatable anyway. So, Mr. Slavin.
As usual, hell yes.
Okay, Mr. Bessie.
I'm gonna double the hell yes.
Okay, Mr. Chadwick.
Abstain.
Ms. Wertz.
I don't have to add hell. 2 hells is enough. Just yes.
Thank you very much. Yes, 4-0-1 abstention. We are in adjournment, and it is good night, Wareham. And again, thank you to everyone who was with us this evening, as well as the people who were in the audience. Good night, Wareham.